Mexico is a great nation, with an area of 1,964,375 square kilometers, making it the 13th largest country in the world. A generous country with many natural and human resources, united and supportive, with a gross domestic product of $1,830 trillion as of 2024, ranked in the 15th position worldwide with respect to GDP, an inflation of 3.79% annually, and with a total population of 126,014,024 inhabitants, with a weighted annual GDP per capita of $14,034, extremely low, with a public debt of $10.82 trillion, which constitutes 58.31% of GDP, which manages a fiscal deficit of minus $106,305 million, which constitutes minus 5.73% of GDP, a strong and diverse nation that needs unity and the work of everyone, especially the head of the executive branch, who only knows how to spend and has not brought investments or productivity to the country. Mexico, with an uninterrupted history of more than 4,000 years, made up of the heritage of great cultures such as the Teotihuacan, the Maya, the Aztec, the Toltec, among others. Its form of government, enshrined in the Constitution, consists of a representative, democratic, secular, and federal republic. Currently, the Morena party holds the representation of the executive power and a majority of the legislative power that they did not obtain at the polls. It was possible to see the citizen support that Morena and its allies had in the extraordinary national elections of June 2, 2025, held in the context of the misnamed judicial reform, where it was measured that Morena and its allies are 9,770,000 citizens, and we are 116 million citizens of the total population. And if they only care about those who vote from the electoral roll, they are 9,770,000 citizens, and we are 90 million citizens. So there is no doubt that they are fewer, and that in 2027, they will lose everything, Congress and the 17 states in dispute. On the other hand, although President Sheinbaum was elected with 35,924,519 votes, with 59.75%, and the opposition as a whole had 22,707,407 votes, with 37.77% of a nominal list of 98,468,994 citizens. It is also true that of the 177,000 polling stations that were deployed nationwide, there was only opposition representation in at least 100,000 polling stations, which presumably delegitimizes the moral veracity of her triumph because it was clearly illegitimate. Analyzing the current terrible management, former President López and President Sheinbaum intend to impose a disguised socialism or communism as social justice under the name of Mexican humanism, failed models that suppress freedom and destroy the prosperity that comes from individual work and effort, which only brought ruin, poverty, and death to the societies that adopted these failed ideologies, which treats the individual as if they were in a concentration camp where a resentful tyrant decides for their governed, benefiting from the collective work of the people, where they lose their freedom, their property, their dreams, and their dignity for a crazy, resentful tyrant and his entourage of collaborators to benefit. A model that can never be implemented in Mexico, with 4,000 years of uninterrupted history of a free market economy. The problem is that these leftists, who are mostly parasitic bureaucrats of the system, who only know how to spend, and who spend on useless pharaonic projects with an absolute lack of planning, also not only consent to allegedly criminal acts to enrich themselves, such as fuel smuggling or fiscal huachicol, disguised as social aid. President Sheinbaum was not satisfied with the slowdown caused by her misnamed judicial reform, where around 881 judges were changed, generating an absolute slowdown in the economy. But now she intends an electoral reform initiative, surely directed by the genocidal Cuban dictatorship that is about to disappear, and which, of course, will further slow down the economy. We have heard in recent months that President Sheinbaum says that she is not with the radical left, that the faction she represents in Morena is more center-left. But if that were true, she would not insist on electoral reform. No to electoral reform, instead of destroying institutions. Why doesn't she start working to bring investments to Mexico? That is why the National Political Party in formation, Democracy and Freedom for Mexico, arises. A real center-right alternative, based on respect for freedom, private property, and the rule of law. The organization México Libre y Democrático, a civil association supporting the National Political Party in formation, Democracy and Freedom for Mexico, has done everything possible to complete all that is necessary to establish the political party in formation. If we do not reach the goal, we are still here as a frontal opposition, as a center-right option.